Hi everyone, welcome back to FPL Moneyball, where we use data analysis to find the best players for your fantasy Premier League teams. Today we'll be doing a Game Week 9 review, where we'll be going through all the key matches and performances, and which players to target for the next game week. So let's jump straight into the video. The first match was Manchester United beating Brighton 4-2. It was a pretty close game with both sides showing the attacking threat going forward. Manchester United winning slightly in terms of the expected goals scored of 1.29 versus 1.12 from Brighton. So we can see from the lineup, the top performer was Mbuemo with 2 goals and a foot mob rating of 9.3. Casemiro in defense also picked up a goal and assist, and Matheus Cunha also scoring his first goal for Manchester United, with Šeško providing the assist. For Brighton, Danny Welbeck continues his goal-scoring form with another goal and a 7.6 foot mob rating for this game week. So in total, the top scorer here was actually a shared between Casemiro and Mbuemo with both 15 points each. So a very strong performance from both of those players. Looking at the expected goals plus assists, the top was Bryan Mbuemo with 0.80, and I did highlight before this game week that Bryan Mbuemo is on my watch list, and given his strong performance against Brighton this game week, I'll likely try to see how I can fit him into my transfer plans going on into the next game week. So the next match was Brentford versus Liverpool, also another thrilling encounter where Brentford won the match 3-2 despite a late goal from Mo Salah. Here the expected goals was actually much higher, more than double the previous match, with Brentford edging it of 2.75 versus Liverpool's 2.3. And this is actually pretty surprising given that Liverpool's defense have been pretty strong in the last few seasons. So disappointing for them as their defense hasn't been as good as they were in the previous few seasons. So the goal scorers for this game were Altara, who actually scored 11 points, picking up the bonus point as well. And also for Brentford, the other goal scorers were Thiago as well as Schade. And for Liverpool, the goal scorers were Kirkesh and Salah, although the person that came off with the most bonus points was Szoboszlai in midfield. So taking a look at the statistics, the player with the highest expected goals and assists was actually Thiago from Brentford, and I did say that I did highlight him as one of the top few forwards to own in my Game Week 9 team selection video, because he does have pretty high expected goals involvement, and he's also very decently priced at 6 million, so he does provide a good points per million and a good value for money for managers looking for a cheaper option in their teams. So next match was Chelsea losing out to Sunderland 2-1, a pretty surprising result given that Chelsea have been performing quite well this season, and Sunderland won the expected goals 1.31 versus Chelsea's 0.89. And I do think that Chelsea actually lost this match was because of the tactical lineups. I think that the manager got it wrong by starting Gui as the forward. He did very poorly in this game, only registering a score of 5.9, which was actually the lowest in the match. So I think that although he did have that good game against Ajax in the Champions League midweek, he didn't have a good game today against Sunderland, and he really struggled to create chances against a Premier League opposition. So we can see that this formation definitely did not work out at all for Chelsea. João Pedro also continuing his poor run of form with a rating of 6.2, and Chelsea defense also, Chelsea defense has been pretty solid this season, but this game week they didn't perform very well, with Chalobah conceding and making a mistake leading to the error which allowed Sunderland to score. So a bit disappointing for me that they didn't get their tactical formation correct. I would much rather prefer Andre Santos to start in the central attacking midfielder spot, and João Pedro leading the line for Chelsea I do think that that would have been a better lineup for them. So taking a look at the expected goals plus assists, the top was actually Isidore from Sunderland, followed by Enzo Fernandez, which I do own in my team, with a expected goal of 0.56. So a bit disappointing that he didn't manage to score, although he did look like Chelsea's best player on the pitch. So the next match was Arsenal versus Crystal Palace, a very tight game which Arsenal won 1-0. Both sides have very solid defenses, among the top defenses in the league. Arsenal only conceding 0.45 expected goals this game week, and Crystal Palace also very little, 0.92 expected goals. But Arsenal did manage to score through a Eze goal in the 39th minute. Man of the match performance was from David Raya. But looking at the fantasy points, Gabriel came away with the 3 bonus points, continuing his strong run of form. But once again, another clean sheet for Arsenal defenders, Timber and Calafiori, which I do own in my team. And a bit disappointing that players such as Gyökeres, Mateta, Saka, who are pretty widely owned, also blanked this game week. So managers will be pretty disappointed with that. Taking a look at the expected goals plus assists, the top was actually Declan Rice, followed by Gyökeres. So you can see that they didn't really create a lot of chances this game week, and it was a very tight match between both teams where the defenses were on top, and not many big chances were created between these two teams. So the next match was Tottenham beating Everton more convincingly 3-0, although this was not reflected in the amount of expected goals. It was pretty even, with Everton actually winning the expected goals 1.74 versus Spurs 1.72, and Spurs actually scored from 2 corners, with Van der Ven scoring two headers from the corners and a match rating of 9.1. And I think he actually was the top player this game week in terms of fantasy points, also with 23 points this game week. Spurs frontline once again blanked. Kudus, Richarlison, who came on in the 62nd minute, did manage to get an assist for Spurs. But other than that, also pretty disappointing for people who own Kudus, and for people who own Everton forwards as well, Grealish and Jai, both blanking as well this game week. Taking a look at the expected goals plus assists, the top was Van der Ven, for scoring his 2 headers, but the next was Iliman and Jai, who continues to be the star performer for Everton in my opinion. And I do think that once Everton's fixtures improve, he will have more chances to score in the next few game weeks. Next match was Bournemouth also beating 2-0 Nottingham Forest 2-0, Nottingham Forest continuing their poor run of form with only 0.37 expected goals this match, although Bournemouth were also kept pretty quiet with 0.58 expected goals. Bournemouth defense once again keeping a clean sheet over there, and the man of the match was actually Petrovic from Bournemouth. Semenyo didn't manage to score a goal. Many managers own him as well, and the goal was actually from Tavernier and Krupi Jr. starting for the injured Ivan Nilsson. Taking a look at the statistics in terms of expected goals plus assists, not many chances created, but the lion's share of the chances went to Bournemouth and Krupi Jr. Next match was Aston Villa surprising Manchester City 1-0 with a goal from Matty Cash. Although the Manchester City did have a higher expected goals of 1.18, Aston Villa managed to snatch the win at home. And taking a look at the lineup, Matty Cash won the man of the match with a goal, and Manchester City's players were kept very quiet this game week. Another disappointing performance for Reinders in midfield with a rating of 5.8. I believe that's the lowest in this match. And Haaland also being kept quiet with a rating of 6.3, and not his usual goal scoring threat and form in the Premier League this game week. This could be due to the fact that the City players may be exhausted after playing the midweek Champions League game. And Pep actually didn't really rotate much. Actually, I thought he would be rotating more, but maybe they don't have the depth that that Manchester City once had. But Yeah, they look pretty exhausted and lacking that creative threat and attacking threat against Aston Villa this game week. The top player in terms of expected goals plus assists was Foden with 0.7, although he also blanked and only scored 2 points this game week. Next match was a match between Wolves and Burnley, two bottom-ranked teams actually. Wolves losing the match 3-2 despite leading the expected goals. Goal scorers was Strand Larsen from the penalty and Munetsi. And for Bournemouth, for Brighton, for Burnley actually it was Fleming with 2 goals and Lyle Foster also a goal in the 90th minute. So the top expected goals plus assists was Strand Larsen because he did have that penalty attempt for Wolves. So good to know that he's still on penalties for Wolves. Next match was Newcastle beating Fulham 2-1, and Newcastle also looked pretty exhausted after their midweek Champions League win over Benfica. Anthony Gordon was rather disappointing at left wing. Given his strong form in the Champions League, he appears to be kind of struggling in the Premier League so far this season, and Voltemade also in the forward position, failing to score. But it was actually Bruno Guimaraes who scored the goal, the winner for Newcastle in this game. Also disappointing that Newcastle didn't manage to keep a clean sheet against a Fulham team that don't really create many chances. So I'm sure many people own Newcastle defensive assets, but unfortunately they blanked this game week. Top expected goals plus assists was Bruno Guimaraes, followed by Raul Jimenez from Fulham. So last match was Leeds United winning West Ham 2-1. West Ham with the new manager Nuno taking charge of this match. They only scored 0.65 expected goals this game week, and West Ham actually very disappointing once again with not very good performance against Leeds United. Although Bowen did manage to come away with an assist, and the goals from Leeds United came from Rodon and Aronson. Just a quick look at the top expected goal involvements was Aronson, followed by Jarrod Bowen, who is the talisman for West Ham United. So I'll say this was a rather disappointing game week. Not many, actually all of the forwards and midfielders blanked this game week, and the defense once again proved to be on top with clean sheets from Spurs, Arsenal, and Bournemouth. So I do think that Gyökeres and João Pedro have been really disappointing, continuing to blank and failing to register points for me. So I would think about how I would reshuffle my forward line going forward. And I do think that bringing in assets such as Mateta and Mbuemo would be definitely my consideration and my transfer plans over the next few game weeks. So stay tuned for my Game Week 10 team selection video, which will come out later this week. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time.